Well, hello everybody out there in internet land. This is Chris from MajorLegacy.com with another exciting episode of Topher's Log. Forgive the no on-camera situation. I sort of decided to do this at the last minute, so I didn't have my camera stuff prepped and ready to go. But I thought I would just talk a little bit about Halloween Horror Nights 29's opening weekend. You don't get to see my ugly mug this time. Down the road, I'll be a little bit more prepared. But I got plenty of stuff, plenty of pictures for you to look at. I didn't take any video this weekend, so forgive me on that. So I'm just going to try to go through a little bit of my first impressions on the event this year. The biggest thing that I could say is that Halloween Horror Nights 29 feels big, which is weird because, of course, next year is an anniversary year. But this year very much feels like an anniversary year, which is very bizarre. But also, hey, it's good, you know? At the same time, it is very good because it does feel very big. It feels very epic. You know, while the houses sort of really don't, you know, not all of them have that 80s vibe to it, you know, aside from Ghostbusters and Stranger Things and a couple other things, there is a 80s sort of twinge to some of the stuff like the scare zones, you know, and things like that. You know, the Halloween Marathon and Mayhem show also pulls that sort of theme in very nicely. But yes, the event feels very big. It is a strong year. I really don't care what anybody says. I really am digging this year. If they can keep up the energy, if they can keep up, you know, this vibe all the way through to the end of the event, I will be extremely happy. This is the strongest year I'd say since 2015 in terms of overall quality. Let's talk a little bit about the houses. I think the houses, you know, I've said many times over that my favorite year for houses is Halloween Horror Nights 21. I think while the overall year itself might not be the best, the houses that year were stellar. You really did not have a bad house in the bunch. I was not a fan of The Thing that year, but even still, The Thing was, you know, was a good house, was a solid house. This year kind of feels the same way. There is no bad house this year. There is no Blumhouse. You know, there is no Lunatics Playground. There is no Walking Dead. Every house is, you know, is good. You know, good or solid. You know, while the Walking Dead on the brain. While Stranger Things might not be my favorite house, I think that they did a good job on the house this year. I think it's a lot better than last year's. They really took the sort of scenic approach to the house this year, and it looks impressive. Those last couple of rooms there, the ones that really take place in season 3 of Stranger Things, are just fantastic. The Mind Flayer looks fantastic. I love the transition in between the seasons. I like how they sort of open, you know, spoiler alert, by the way, guys, spoiler alert, if you don't want to be spoiled about the houses, spoiler alert. I really like how they, you know, they start the house with like a last season on Stranger Things sort of vibe. And then, like with the transitioning between season 2 and season 3, and even right after that, from the last season on Stranger Things to the, you know, season 2, I thought was awesome. Like the house, might not be my favorite overall house for this year, but I think they did a really good job on the house. Like I said, there's not really like a bad house, so I really kind of have like, you know, I have my favorites, but when I talk about like my number one, I talk about like my bottom, there's really tiers. Like you've got the top tier, and you've got the ones that are on the bottom. They're like, no, these are good, but they're not the best. And you know, top tier for me right now, number one, Universal Classic Monsters, hands down. I love the design of this house. I love the way it looks. I love the scenic, the scares. The first time that we went through the house, we really kind of missed some of the scares, but the second time, the scares were on point. I love this house so much. It is everything that I wanted from Universal Classic Monsters house and more. Right below that is House of a Thousand Corpses. I almost put this at number one. This house is fantastic. Even if you do not like House of a Thousand Corpses, the house is just good. It's that good. It's got the scares. It's got the environment. It really puts you in that movie. It is far and away the best house we've had so far in the MIB tent. I am just super thrilled with this house. It could by the end of the event, would not surprise me if by the end of the event, House of a Thousand Corpses becomes my #1 house of the year. Obviously, I still have to go through. I got to do, more run-throughs of houses and things like that. But as of now, those are my top 2. Ghostbusters, I know Ghostbusters is sort of a love it or kind of hate it type of house, or not like it kind of house. Ghostbusters is fine. It feels more like, you're walking through the movie, which is, Horror Nights is sort of known for that now these days. They put you in these environments. It's sort of a criticism that I have, especially with like Stranger Things last year. I want more than just sort of walking through the film. But that being said, Ghostbusters is well done for what it does. The problem with it is that because it's so reliant heavily on effects and things of that nature, if you miss things, your enjoyment of the house might not be as good. For me, we sort of keep having bad luck where every time we go through it, there are actors missing. Some of the puppeteers aren't there, things of that nature. A couple of really good scares in there. The Zool dogs, or whatever they are, the demon dogs from Ghostbusters. Those things are really cool. Those got me a couple times the first time through. It really, if you feel nostalgic for the old school Ghostbusters attraction, this house sort of will feed that need for you. It really does kind of, in parts, feel like you're walking through that experience. The Gozer part, the first time we saw the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, I literally threw my hands in the air. The way that they did that, I thought was really cool. But Ghostbusters feels more like an experience than an actual haunted house. Which is fine. It is what it is. You're either going to love that or you're going to hate that, but it's a beautiful house. So take that with what it's a very beautiful house to look at. And I really like how they approached it. I like how they approached physically going through scenes and things like that. I think they did a good job there. But yeah, so that's, again, not really a bad house. Not really. There is no bad house this year. All the houses are good to phenomenal. So no complaints there. The scare zones, I think this is the best collection of scare zones we've had in quite some time. There really is not a bad scare zone. I'd say the weakest of the scare zones is probably Zombieland. You might be able to throw Vikings in there too, but Zombieland, I think, is a victim of its own concept, where it's just zombies. But the thing that I like, what they did with Zombieland, is that all the zombies kind of have their own personality. They all have their own quirks, their own their own things that they do, and that sort of brings a little bit of freshness to the zombie thing, where it doesn't feel like, it still feels like zombies, but there is that little twinge of, oh, all these zombies have different quirks and things like that, and you can watch them do things for days in that zone. And that's quite fun. Vikings is really good. Of course, that setting there over in Central Park always lends itself to great atmospheric scare zones. The costuming in here is really good. I like the dead bodies, being strung about, the sort of, I forgot what the term is, but that thing where the person's like back is exposed and the lungs are out, and you got it looks like wings and stuff like that. There's a term for that. It's a torture that I think the Vikings used to do. Where they flay out your lungs. That thing is really cool. A lot of really cool costumes and props in Vikings. Vanity Ball is it is what it is. Not really my cup of tea, but still a lot of fun. You kind of do feel like a paparazzi walking through there, taking pictures of all the all the different scare actors, walking down the runway and stuff like that. So that's awesome. It's kind of the blogger-vlogger scare zone of the year. All the diehard fans, they're all hanging out in there this year. Don't be surprised if we hear about this scare zone for the next couple of years, almost like, Van 55 and things like that. It's kind of become that zone already. Arcade is great, even though there's not a whole lot of stuff in there. It really does set the tone. It sets the vibe for what this event is this year, this whole 80s thing. I love that. And a great place to take photos, of course. A lot of really cool neon and fog and stuff. You can really get some great photos in there. But of course, the creme de la creme, Rob Zombie's Hellbilly Deluxe, hands down, far and away, the best scare zone they've done this year. Really does kind of have an old school Horror Nights vibe to it as well, which is awesome. But the atmosphere in there, the music, everything about that scare zone is great. The only downside is that it does indeed, yes, get a little crowded and cramped in there in that space, especially on a busy night. But fantastic scare zone. You know, I cannot wait to spend hours and hours and hours in there, you know, as we move forward throughout the course of the event. I did not get a chance to see Academy of Villains yet, but I did catch the Halloween Marathon of Mayhem Lagoon show, and that thing is phenomenal. If you get a chance, go and see this show. It is fantastic. I've seen the normal show during the day, obviously a couple times. This thing is better than that show. I don't know if it's, you know, because I've seen that other show. Some of the stuff that they're doing with this show feels better. Feels like some of the projections are better. The colors, the vibrant colors, the sort of 80s pinks and blues and reds and all that stuff. The music. It is a great addition to Halloween Horror Nights. I hope they bring this back maybe in a different form whenever, you know, they change the theme for Halloween Horror Nights next year or whatever it is. No, maybe next year we do like an icon show, you know, because it's an anniversary year. Who knows? But nevertheless, still a great show. I'll catch Academy of Villains probably this coming Thursday. But yeah, guys, that is it. Halloween Horror Nights 29 is in full swing. I think it's a strong year so far. I really hope they're able to keep up the energy all year. I really, 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 really do. I'm having a lot of fun so far. There is not one house this year that I dread going back into. Even Stranger Things. I want to go back into Stranger Things. Us, you know, I really liked Us. The one thing that I would say about that one, though, is that it really does kind of feel like they threw it together at the last minute. There's a lot of blank walls and stuff like that as you're walking through. You know, I mean, there are sets in there, but the walls don't feel lived in. A lot of the sets and stuff don't feel lived in. What makes up for it is the atmosphere, the soundtrack, and the scares. I love the tactics in here in Us that they use to scare you, and a lot of really close quarters stuff as well, which is pretty neat. But the only downside is that, you know, like I said, while the set design might not be the best, the scares are really good in there. The scares and the atmosphere, those are, you know, that's the creme de la creme of that house. And I want to go back in it, you know. Yeti, we keep running into a situation where we keep missing things, so I have to go back in there. I've done Yeti twice now, so I got to go back in. I do like the set and designs of Yeti and stuff like that. So there's that. So before I go, here's a current rundown of my house my house rankings as they stand right now. Like I said, there's not really a bad house in the bunch. They're all good houses. Just some things need some work, and some things I just like more than other things. So coming out at number 10 is going to be Nightingale's Blood Pit. It's a good house. It just needs to do a little bit better in the scare department and also timing. Number 9 is Stranger Things. Like I said, I like the house very much. You know, much better than last year's house. I just think, again, needs some work in the scare department and timing. Number 8 is Us. Number 7 is Yeti Terror of the Yukon. We keep having some bad run-throughs of this where people are missing and actors are missing and Yetis are missing and stuff, and we keep missing scares. But like the house, great design. Just needs to go back in it a couple more times. Number 6 is Depths of Fear. Like Depths of Fear a lot. You know, like I said, hopefully they keep up the energy this year. This house has run into a bit of controversy this past weekend. Let's hope that they don't cave and do different things and things. Please don't take stuff away. Number 5 is going to be Ghostbusters. Like I said, it really is an experience. You know, I really like this house quite a bit. Number 4, Killer Clowns. I didn't talk a lot about Killer Clowns. Killer Clowns really surprised me. It's got a very sort of old school fun house, sort of haunted house sort of vibe to it. A lot of fun. Number 3 is going to be Graveyard Games. Way at the bottom of my hype list if you followed me this year. But it's number 3. This house is awesome, guys. My top 4, the first 4 houses, really was tough to pick a number 1 for this past weekend. It could have been Graveyard Games. It could have been Killer Clowns. You know, but Graveyard Games, very surprising. A very good house. If you get a chance, do Graveyard Games. Number 2 is going to be House of a Thousand Corpses. I almost put this at number 1. This house is fantastic. Even if you don't like the film, it's got the scares, it's got the environment, it's a lot of fun. House of a Thousand Corpses, almost put it at number 1, but ultimately, Universal Monsters comes in at number 1 right now. I love this house so much. I love the scares, I love the designs, I love the actors in here. I love this house so much. Please keep up the energy in here. I will be going through this house a lot this year. I love this house so much. So that is it for me, guys. I do keep the running commentary every week. I might not be able to do a video every week, but I will keep a running commentary on the blog. You could always, look up what my current rankings are for the houses as we move through the weeks here. But that is it for me, guys. Halloween Horror Nights 29 is here. I've got to go edit this video, and I've got a date with Pennywise later this afternoon. That movie is really long too, so I don't have a whole lot of time to sort of do stuff here. But anyway, guys, that is it for me, and I will talk to you guys next time.